Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Gifted. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode. Obviously, things went down between John and Erg, and I thought it was kind of interesting because even in that state, John hitting him and everything, Erg didn't hit him back because he realizes what John was going through. It's like how important Clarice was to him. It's like they had that whole blaming each other, but at the end of the day, they both lost someone that they did care about. So, plus Clarice did sacrifice herself to make sure that everyone else got out, made sure all the Morlocks were able to get out. It's interesting too because it didn't really click in my head just like that, but I thought she died on the other side of the portal. I didn't realize until John said it this episode she fell into the portal when she died, so she could be anywhere. You can hope maybe someone was able to get her help. I mean, I was thinking maybe Jason and the others had her, but maybe she got sent somewhere. Because for her, she had that whole thing at the beginning where it's sometimes she thought about just kind of existing in that space in between her portals and stuff like that. So I mean, with that power and stuff like that, I guess the argument could almost be she's stuck in that in-between space, in between space, or you can make the argument maybe she got scattered everywhere, but maybe she is just out there somewhere, trapped in between, waiting for someone to try and come get her, maybe. I mean, who knows? Being trapped in that space might be the only thing that's keeping her alive, because maybe in that space, time is frozen, and it's keeping her from dying. Maybe that's potentially a route we could be seeing, but maybe I'm completely wrong about it. But because of this, John is falling apart every time he tries to use his abilities to track. All he can do is sense Clarice, but maybe that's just more proof that she is alive, that there's some part of her that he's able to somehow tap into just because of their connection, that's overriding everything else, because his feelings and everything, how he's feeling, his, your abilities are a reflection of your emotions and stuff like that. So because of all the intense emotions he's feeling right now, maybe that's enough to trigger his abilities to potentially, because he's trying to track her, subconsciously, because maybe there is a part of him that just outright is still looking for her in some shape or form, hoping that she's out there. And there's also the possibility of I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to think about. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. And there's also another side of things where it's all about kind of making hard decisions in this episode. Lorna's abilities weren't working now, and to make sure that everyone got away, Caitlin made everyone split up. She went with Lauren, and she was like, wait, did you split us up so that they would most likely go after the Morlocks and give us a chance to get away? And it almost seems like maybe that technically is what Caitlin did, but for her, it's if we stayed on that road, everyone would have gotten caught. So this is, that could be part of her motivation, but at the same time, it's she gave everyone their best chance by doing that. But still, that's kind of sucky and sad that things kind of came down to that, even to the point Caitlin was okay, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, I'm gonna give you a diversion, give them a diversion so that you can get away. But she's I'm not going to leave you. It's but the future of everything is on your shoulders. Mutants, Andy, it's going to be up to you to kind of bring everything together. But her power is activated. So then you also have the fact is that Reed ended up killing Ted, because his power is activated and stuff like that. But it's because Ted kept running his mouth of being the fact of the matter is, I'm going to get all your mutant buddies. Reed had destroyed his gun, but then killed Ted because he wanted to. That rage consumed him. I guess that's something that the Von Strucker family, that's what their mutant ability taps into, that rage of theirs, And so he even admits it later on. He's I took his gun away. The fact is, I'm not a good person. Because part of him is the fact is, I am surrounded by darkness. And the fact is that maybe that's all there is, the Von Struckers. Maybe that's all we are. And it's I'm not a good person, essentially. But Caitlin's if you being in that darkness might be what's necessary to pull Andy out of it. You can show him the way. He's the only one that can decide to take it. It's interesting because, it was, what Rita talked about before, and he brings it up again this episode of the purpose of his abilities. He's maybe I can find out there's some good for this power of mine, and it's I figured it'd be tied to Andy in some shape or form, and it seems like it is ultimately, because him doing what he did made him understand Andy more, and it made Andy kind of realize, like, hey, I'm not alone and just feeling and doing what I'm doing, like, because he admits, like, I wanted to kill that guy whose legs I broke, but then, like, Rita's like, I wanted to kill the guy too, and I actually did it. So it's like, if you're a monster, son, so am I. And, hearing Caitlin, you see Caitlin and Lauren looking at him, overhearing this, and I think for Lauren, it makes her realize too, like, she's felt that darkness as well, and just to know that her dad ended up crossing that line, I think it shows you the danger of the Von Strucker blood, of just like that darkness that flows through their family, and what it, I think, because Lauren probably sees that, like, that could be her too, like, potentially. I don't know. That's kind of my thought process in it, but we did learn a lot of interesting things in this episode too. We ended up finding out the reason why Reva had the Morlocks wiped out. It wasn't necessarily she wasn't trying to use this as all the mutants that were killed, we're going to boost up our ranks now because of that. It's like, no, she needed the Morlocks out of her way for multiple reasons. One, because it gives them access to the sewers, the underground tunnel systems, as well as, like, it's going to allow them to go to the wall that's connected to the Sentinel Service building. They can go in and wipe them all out. But it's also because she wanted to give them no other options. Like, the Mutant Underground is as broken as it is. If anyone had found out there was a third option, that being the Morlocks, then maybe it would have swayed some of the people, those who are probably, like, trying not to get involved in all of this, maybe who don't necessarily want to fight. She doesn't want to I'll even leave it up to chance that they may have another option. She wants to be their only option. And it's like, you were willing to send people out to kill your own people, other mutants, and that's, like, the more terrible aspect of it. But in her mind, it's like, it's all about building a mutant homeland. Like I thought before, like, the reasoning behind their what Ryan is getting out of this and what Reva is getting out of this is the fact is that they are going to divide the two nations. It's going to keep them as separate. Like, Ryan obviously will rally up the humans and Reva will rally up the mutants. That's the whole point, being like, going forward, like, this is the only path for us. This is our way to create a human, a mutant homeland. And it's interesting because, I think Ryan knows, it's like, oh, there's something coming that's the magnitude of 715. The only reason he knows that is because Reva is telling him. He's thinking, like, oh, when it's all said and done, I'll rally up the humans, I'll be their champion, I'll be the one kind of leading the charge in all of this. Yes, he had his anti-mutant stuff, but once again, even Reva kind of, it was kind of like she made him into what he is, the symbol that he is. And I believe when it's all said and done, like I said, Ryan's going to think he's going to lead a charge. It's like, no. When it's all said and done, when they serve their purposes, we see what Reva does to people who are no longer useful. She's going to kill them all, I believe. I believe she's going to kill Ryan, and she's going to kill the Purifiers, and that's going to give her more credibility. It's going to be like, look what I did. I wiped out the Purifiers, the main people who hate us. Look at these humans. They hate us, and I killed them all. And the fact of the matter is, all of humanity is going to turn against them because of that, but also it's just going to rise up, the anger amongst mutants to be like, yeah, we can do this. Like, so it's a warped, thing that she's doing, because even like Lorna obviously has had her second thoughts about everything, obviously, because even Esme, it's like, when it's all said and done, we're going to convince mutants to join our side. And she's like, you mean force? It's like, yes, but it's like, shouldn't we all be here because we believe, not because we're forced to believe? And it's like, well, you came to our side, so kind of saying eventually, we'll give people the chance to believe themselves, but till then, we have to force them on our side. So it's like, even more reason why the Morlocks had to be taken out for, probably even the mutants that are a part of the Morlocks who didn't want to fight, probably, who can't fight. She'll probably sway them too to join her side as well. Probably the same thing for the Mutant Underground. It's just kind of like everything, all mutants kind of fall under her umbrella of like, once again, it can't, you look at the argument that it's like, maybe, everything that happened to Reva, someone that she cares about, was killed because she was a mutant and stuff like that. And so you can make the argument that, Reva obviously wasn't always like this. She was actually more along with the Mutant Underground until, like, her rage consumed her. And so now it's a situation of, like, it's hard to say whether she's 100% doing this because it's like, it is for the betterment of, mutant kind, following in the Brotherhood footsteps and stuff like that. Or is it simply just because she wants to lead the charge and want to be the one in charge? It feels like it could basically lend itself to both. It doesn't seem like they have to necessarily be mutually exclusive. So. And you have Lorna trying to convince Andy, telling him the truth about everything, which Andy goes like, wait, so it's all been a lie? Rebecca died for a lie? All the stuff that I've done is for a lie? Because even Lorna, it's crazy because for her it's like, Andy's only here because of me, because what I did to that plane. It made him realize like, wow, this is the side I have to be on. We have to make sacrifices if it's for the greater good. And now it's kind of like, she regrets what she did because, like, obviously she believes in a mutant homeland, but not if it means the cost, the price that has to be paid to get there, Because even she was like, yeah, a few sacrifices, I was willing to make those sacrifices, but now it's snowballed into something else too, because this whole thing's like a giant conspiracy to manipulate people rather than just letting people choose their own side, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be too surprised considering the whole Frost sisters whole thing anyway of them being in people's minds, so you kind of tell from the beginning. I mean, to be fair, let's not forget that's how Lorna really got shifted to their side too. It's like they, more specifically, Esme was getting inside of people's heads and stuff like that, so it's not like, in the Mutant Underground, so even, back in season 1, so it kind of shows you, even from the beginning, it was never kind of like you fully believe. It's more so we swayed you to believe, kind of like some Inception stuff getting inside of your head type of thing. So that's just kind of interesting to think about. Because Jace had reservations because he realized, like, wait, this was supposed to be a terrorist camp. There were kids down there. There were families down there. And because the fact of the matter is, it's like not all of them were fighters. Literally every mutant that's alive now from the Morlocks aren't fighters. The fighters are all dead. They all died, like trying to protect their home that you came into, And obviously Jace has his, because now it's that question again, like, what have I been doing? Like, I was doing this all for my daughter's sake, obviously, but now it's like, I realized there were kids down there. He tries to bring it up to Ryan, but it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, what about the good men that died down there? They had families too, and it's like, Jace not realizing he's just being manipulated, that he's just part of this twisted, game that Ryan is a part of, that he's playing his role, but his does more so seem like it's, because even Reva says, like, oh, you don't really 100%, you just jumped on the anti-mutant bandwagon because you want to be famous, and lo and behold, like, I think, whereas Reva, you can make the argument, like, both sides of, like, hey, she's trying to do this for mutants as well as, she wants to, potentially lead the charge, have the power and everything, but at the same time, it's like, with Ryan, I feel like it's more so the power thing. I don't know if he 100% believes what he preaches. I mean, the fact is that he's willing to work with Reva in the first place shows you that he isn't the full-on mutant hater that he claims to be. Like, if the other purifiers are found out, if Jace found out, I think that'd shift everything. And it makes you wonder, is that what they're potentially going to do? Like, when it's all said and done, Ryan gets removed and Jace steps up to be the face of everything. And maybe he doesn't hide the whole aspect of, I'm with the purifiers. Maybe he fully embraces it. Maybe he just simply takes over Ryan's position and then eventually, secretly keeps working with the purifiers. I have no idea how that's going to play out, but, hearing that, like, oh, there might be another 715 is riling, him as well as others up, but I think he's still going into this with hesitation, and now, like, both sides are rearing up. But, Andy's come home and so has Lorna, and there's this bittersweetness to it because you feel good because you see them all on the rooftop and it's like, they're back together again, and this storm that's coming, it's now or never because things are about to implode. So it's going to be interesting to see everything goes down because next week's episode is in fact the season finale. So I'm so interested to see how this ends, like, and I have no idea how it will, so. But like I said, on some level, like, even though Clarice isn't there, it's almost like they're back together again. This family is reunited, not just the Von Struckers, but everyone. Because it's definitely going to be interesting because now that Andy and Lauren are back together, so is their combined power. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us. It's also interesting, too, because it's like, what is going to happen with the whole Dawn situation now that, Lauren is away from the inner circle, does that mean her and Marcos are going to be back in Dawn's life now? Or are they still going to be like, no, we have a fight? What about the rest of the mutant underground, especially after all the leaders got taken out? They seem reserved about taking this fight, but like now, like John and the others are kind of leading the charge. So what about the others? What about the Morlocks? Are they going to try and fight too? There's so many questions I'm curious about, because this is something that, Urk can't walk away from. Their home has already been attacked. The fact of the matter is, if they don't stop Reva and the humans clashing, it's going to be the end-all be-all for everything. There'll be no, peace between the two groups anymore. And it's just like, a war is going to rage on, and everyone's going to have to choose a side. And it's like, once again, the Mutant Underground being that third party, obviously the Inner Circle and the Purifiers representing the extremists on both sides. So whereas the Mutant Underground kind of exists in the middle to kind of bring everyone together. So like I said, I'm very excited to see what they do with the season finale. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.